What's up YouTube? Jeff back again from dopetechdaily.com. Today I'm bringing you guys my 1 week impressions of the Exynos Galaxy Note 7. I ordered this off Amazon. I posted about it on Twitter and Instagram. This is my first video talking about it. Now I've had the Snapdragon 820 version for a while from T-Mobile. As you guys know, there's a recall going on with these phones. So I am going to send this back to Amazon and I'm going to get a new Exynos Note 7 once they become available. Mainly because I paid almost $1,000 for this. And it has no warranty because I imported it from the UK. So I want to make sure everything's fine, the phone's not going to explode, etc. Not super worried about it, but with no warranty, why not get it replaced? But I want to do a video for you guys before I send it back. Just compare and contrast the Snapdragon 820 to my experience on the Exynos model. You guys know I was having some issues with the Snapdragon 820 battery life lag. So I want to discuss how I've fared with this model and also a few things I've noticed that are different between the two. So the first thing that's slightly different is the lock screen notifications. You guys can see here, they've got no space between them here on the Exynos model, and on the Snapdragon 820, there is spacing in between those. You can also see the font slightly different on each of the models as well. And also you can see that the see-through, or how much you can see the background, you can see through a little bit more on the background here than you can on the Snapdragon 820. So that also persists into the drop-down menu. There's a couple differences between them. On the Snapdragon 820, you can see that you still have some gaps between the notifications. When you pull them down, you also have notification settings or clear. Here I have clear all or block notifications. Now this is not on the Snapdragon 820, but it's super useful. I can go into each app here in my drop-down, block notifications for each one. If you don't want to get notifications from a certain social media app, this is a great thing to have. So that's a quick comparison. Those are something I noticed. Another thing that I've noticed that's different in terms of the overall UI, you guys know that on the Snapdragon 820 version I complained. The alphabetical order here, when you go down to the three dots menu, if you click alphabetical order, it doesn't persist as you add new apps. So if you add new apps, they're going to end up here at the end. It puts your new apps at the very end of your app drawer. You have to keep hitting alphabetical order to have it sort. A lot of people told me that on the Exynos version, that's not true. And that's actually the case here. If you look at the three dots menu, it's also a slightly different UI at the top. The bar goes all the way across. The options that you have right here, edit and sort, and if you click sort here, you can choose to sort them by alphabetical order, and this actually persists even if you add new apps. I really like this a lot. I wish Samsung would do this in the US. I don't know why they think that we don't want alphabetical order, but I love to have my apps in the app drawer in alphabetical order. This actually will make me use the TouchWiz launcher a little bit longer instead of installing Action Launcher 3 or Nova Launcher. Having that alphabetical order persist throughout is definitely nice. So a couple of UI changes that I noticed there, the notifications as well as the alphabetical order, the menu here in the app drawer, those are just two small things that definitely make it nicer on the Exynos model. Not a huge deal, but something to note anyway. Otherwise, of course, a lot of the other things are the same. All the settings, they did move around a few of the settings. It's not everything's exactly the same, but it's pretty similar. You guys can see here, if I go into the software info, you can see running 6.0.1. Very, very similar. It is running a slightly different build number, of course, because it is, of course, the dual SIM model, the international model. As you guys can see right there, all the information. This is the FD version, so i930 FD for this version of the Galaxy Note 7. Now, in terms of battery life, you guys know I was getting pretty bad battery life. Well, I don't know, I wouldn't say bad, but mediocre for me on this phone. I was getting close to 4 hours, really more like 3.5 hours average. Now, I tested this phone with two carriers. I did T-Mobile and at&t. I just turned the phone on today, so obviously it's not going to be a very good indicator of the battery life. But in terms of battery life, I've gotten pretty much the same battery life using T-Mobile. So I'm wondering if perhaps T-Mobile is the issue. I've turned it on. I was updating some apps, so that's not a very good indicator. I post some screenshots over on Twitter of my battery life on this phone. I've gotten about 3.5 to 4 hours on T-Mobile. So I'm wondering if perhaps it has to do with my coverage. The only issue is I haven't seen poor battery life on my T-Mobile S7 Edge, my T-Mobile S7, my LG V10. I've never had this sort of battery life drain particular to T-Mobile before. But when I switched in my at&t SIM card on this phone, my battery life has been much, much better. So overall, I've improved the battery life up to about 4.5 to 5 hours on average by switching to at&t. So that could have something to do with the network. Obviously, that seems like the only reasonable explanation. But I'm pretty impressed with the battery life on switching the carriers. So that, I don't really know any other way to explain it. Otherwise, the lag though, in terms of just the UI navigation, this phone is much smoother in my opinion. when it comes to opening apps. The RAM management still isn't that great, but just the overall amount of lag or jankiness, as the guys at Droid Life would say, I like that word quite a bit, that you have when opening the apps is a lot less with the Exynos version. I think it makes the day-to-day navigation a lot smoother and overall the phone a little bit more enjoyable to use. Even though, again, the RAM management isn't quite as good actually on the Exynos version. Actually, my friend Shane Starnes made a video comparing a speed test. My friend Shane Starnes and Josh Bain, I'll link their video below. They did a speed test between the Exynos and the Snapdragon 820. They showed the Exynos was quicker at opening individual apps, but the RAM management, which means how many apps it holds in memory, is actually a little bit better on the Snapdragon 820, a little worse on the Exynos version. So overall, I've been impressed though. The day-to-day navigation has been a little bit speedier, but again, that's a trade-off. If you value the RAM management over the speediness, I don't know that one's really a whole lot better than the other. So you've got a couple of improvements in terms of battery life and lag. I had to change carriers to get a little better battery life, but this one's unlocked, so that is an advantage. You've got a little bit nicer UI in terms of the notifications. You've also got the alphabetical order in terms of the app drawer, so I thought those were improvements. Of course, you got the dual SIM capability, and of course, it's unlocked. You don't have any branding on the back like you do with the Galaxy Note 7 branding there for T-Mobile, just the Samsung branding. There's also some regulatory information down there. So, of course, I also think that is a great thing. Now, I have had a couple of issues with this phone. One thing that I want to show you guys, just to be aware that this is out there. I'm not saying this is the biggest issue in the world, but it is something worth noting. If you compare the S Pen on these two phones, this one is a lot looser. The tip of the S Pen there, the clicky part, you can see how much it moves around. This one doesn't really have much give side to side. If you notice, this one just wiggles as soon as you touch it. This one does not. So a lot of people have had issues with the S Pen getting stuck going in the correct way, and I think one of those reasons is because this click mechanism has been malfunctioning, and so I'm a little concerned about that, which is another reason that I'm sending back my Exynos version to get it replaced. In addition to the issues people are having with the battery because of the recall, of course, I don't want my phone to explode, but this is also something to keep in mind when it comes to the S Pen. Obviously, I don't want it to get stuck in there if I'm putting it in the correct way. All right, so those are the main things I wanted to touch on with my experience. So would I recommend that you import this to the US if you're on T-Mobile or at&t? That really depends on what you're looking for. If you want the unlocked nature of the phone, you want the dual SIM capabilities, that might be a good reason. Also, if you have the ability to use it on at&t, again, I've seen better battery life, overall performance. That could just be the network, of course, and the overall coverage in my area, as people have mentioned. But I think it's worth it if you want that unlocked nature. You get the updates directly from Samsung, etc. But you also have to realize you lose the warranty. You're also going to pay a higher price. You can't get the installment plan on a carrier, things like that. So the overall UI changes don't make it worth the money. And I don't even think the additional, the less lag that you have in the UI, I don't think that makes it worth it because, again, you have some trade-offs with RAM management. This one's a little bit better. So overall, I don't know that the speed up is really worth it for the Exynos model. For my S7 Edge, I thought the Exynos was head and tails above. But again, I'm going to replace this for the recall. We'll see how I feel about the new one once I get it in through the recall program, and I'll do a follow-up video then as well. All right, guys, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a comment below. I'll be happy to answer you guys. Find me at dopetechdaily.com, Google+, Instagram, and Twitter. The link's in the description. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoy my Note 7 content so I can make future videos on the Pixel phones, the LG V20, the iPhone 7, etc. I appreciate you guys checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.